Well, here we go again, back on the road. I know gas is up to $3.59 today. And they say it's going up to $10 a gallon, and it might go to $20 or $30 a gallon after that, who knows. It's all because of these blood-soaking banksters who own these service stations and these oil companies, and who want to get as much money out of the little guy in America as he can. They'd like to start starvation here. But nothing happens on its own. They got this corn ethanol to the point now where corn has gone from $1.74 a bushel to $10 a bushel. That's going to go up even higher. People are buying rice like it's gold powder. The Asians are panicking here who live here in America. They're buying as much rice as they can get their hands on. They've been through things like this where the Chinese yuan has crashed and they had to pay 4 or 5 times what they normally had to pay for things. We're going into bad times here, I think. Yes, I think we're going into some very, very bad times. I don't know whether to buy extra food to get through it. I think I might buy some, but I don't really like that idea because I did that during Y2K, and the rice I bought just sat there till I finally threw it away. I'm not much of a rice eater, but in a panic, there's nothing else to eat. Some rice and some beans out of a can mixed together would taste pretty damn good. You might want to think of doing that yourself. You don't have to buy things that are expensive. You might want to buy some flour and some yeast and some baking powder, so that if you had to, you could make bread, you know, with baking powder. Baking powder bread is the old way that the Irish used to do it. You don't have to be a big baking company in order to have some bread to eat. Things are bad, and if you had 20 or 30 pounds of flour, you could probably make 20 or 30 loaves of bread. Or you might be able to make 300 biscuits of bread. At least you'd have something to make your sandwiches with, and I know that being an American, you're part of the sandwich nation. You probably would like to have some sandwiches. Well, there's a nice house. And here's the pour over here in an apartment. Section 8, baby. Right here. Look at that. Yeah. America. Diversity is our strength. Yes. So there we have it. Everybody has a place, but the big thing here is that some rich people made money off of every one of these buildings, and they're continuing to do so because they get the money for next to nothing from the U.S. Treasury. But you and I have to pay 5, 6, 7%, 8%, sometimes 24% every month for what we borrow of that money that they got for free. Because they're special. They're from this tribe that owns the banks, and their little family gets to get the money for free, and they sell it to us over and over and over again every year. 4, 5, 6, 7%. So for every 10 people or 20 people that are getting loans from them, they get all that money that they borrowed, that one of them borrowed for themselves, put it in their pocket for not doing anything. And they own the credit cards, and if you happen to make a mistake and you paid too much for stuff and you're out of money, then they can't wait to push that little button at the bank and charge you $34 because you overspent your credit card. Well, is it worth that much? Of course not. But that's what they're going to charge you for it. They're vicious. They're criminals. Well, that's not the end of it. The big thing that they do is to start wars so they'll make more money. War after war. This country is not the United States of America. This is the war nation. We have wars every damn day. I haven't seen a day without war since I was born. I was born just a few days after Pearl Harbor, which was engineered by FDR so he could fight the Japanese, but we really wanted to fight for his Zionist friends were the Germans. Because the Germans were going to fight the Soviet Union. And the Zionists liked the Soviet Union because they started the Soviet Union. They started it. These elitists, these minority people who think that they're better than you and who think that God created them as a superior race of men. And that you deserve to be, well, you deserve to be stepped on all the time. And sometimes I feel like, yeah, we probably do, because after all, we put up with it. You put up with being stepped on, and they give you a big head trip about it, then you start thinking, well, I guess I deserve it because I'm being stepped on. I think people who are being stepped on feel a lot more comfortable about what's happening to them if they can agree that somehow they did something to deserve it. Well, that may not be true, but I think it has a lot of truth in it. It's almost Freudian. Of course, Freud was a Zionist, and his nephew was the inventor of advertising, and he felt that people like Freud had said are just simply a bunch of idiots who can be easily manipulated, and that business ought to manipulate us, and that banks ought to manipulate us, and that governments ought to manipulate us, and the military ought to lead us into war where we charge up hills and get our guts blown out. And they put a little tombstone there for us. But when the Jews come to do a movie like Finding Private Ryan, they don't take pictures of my tombstone or yours, cross on it. No, they make sure that there's plenty of Jewish tombstones right next to yours with a Star of David, because that's their little tombstone, and they make sure that they're always represented in all of these little scenes in their movies. And some people are so capitalistic and they're so much for the rich, they say, well, they deserve to do that since they own it. Well, if they own everything, maybe if they own a knife, they could chop you up with it. Just kill you. Just stick that knife in your heart and through your throat until you croak. There's nothing whatsoever left of you. After all, they have money. They're rich. You think the rich have a right to anything that they want, don't you? Why not the right to kill you? And if they started to kill you in a revolution, you would rationalize it, I'm sure, and say, well, we shouldn't have started the revolution, and once we did, they had a right to shoot back. Well, they're shooting back right now, and we haven't even raised our guns. Now they're trying to confiscate everybody's house they can get their fingers on them. And they're afraid they're going to lose their banks because they did this rotten thing to these homeowners by loaning them money on loans where they could save just a few hundredths of a percentage point, but they didn't tell them that they were going to have to pay it back at higher rates where they're going to lose their house. But that's what it was. That's what it was. And then you've got the United States of America itself, run by that great, vicious Bolshevik, Chertoff, Michael Chertoff, of the Bolshevik tribe. And he runs Homeland Security, and he did an absolutely disastrous job with FEMA at New Orleans. Let those people just die down there. Totally inept person. Person could care less about non-Jewish people. I could assure you if that was Tel Aviv with people floating around, he would have had the entire Air Force out there wrecking their planes and coming down in parachutes to bring them a little glass of water. Oh, but these were just black people. What the Zionists referred to in private as the Schwarzem. Das Schwarzem, yeah, the black people. Schwarz meaning black. Well, as a vice person, a white person, who's been in civil rights, I don't really think that's a very nice thing for them to say.